So, guys, one more time, we're going to start with the scientific achievement reform. We're going to go ahead and keep on doing this. Today, we're actually going to look at some of the technology that we haven't looked at before. So, keep that in mind. So, I'm going to kind of, with my hand, point some things out. I know you're probably not going to see it, but still, I want you to keep those in mind. Scientific achievement reform. But let's get started then. So, we kind of recap. This was our bell ringer if you weren't there to class today. In our bell ringer, we said, today we will be looking at technology, looking at other technology and how it helped information and industrialization. We have already looked at some of these technological innovations. Try to see which one you can tell me about. So, tell me a little bit about the Erie Canal. Tell me a little bit about the railroads. Tell me a little bit about Cottingen factories. All right. If you can't remember, just remember. Okay, what was considered the Erie Canal? What did the Erie Canal do? What was it considered? All right. When it comes to the railroads, who were the people that made the railroads? And what else? Where do we mainly see the railroads developed in? Okay. Next one, the cotton gin. Okay, for sure. We need to know what the cotton gin is. All right. We also need to know from the cotton gin what region, north or south, is the one that we actually got it from, or where it actually developed the most, where it was used the most. All right. So factories. Well, I want to know the different type of people that work in the factories, and what region do we see most of the factory workers in? It's in the north or the south, because we've only talked about two regions, two. So regarding industrialization. Okay. So go ahead and pause if you want to pause. I'll put a timer right here. Look, I haven't pressed play on the timer. I'll give you a whole 2 minutes to get this done. But if you want to pause on whatever minute, whatever time right now, and just write them down. All right. Okay. So I'll put pause for right here. But for the most part, you should have wrote something down regarding the Erie Canal as being considered somewhat of a water highway. Water highway where the majority of transportation was coming and going through the Erie Canal regarding transportation, regarding goods and services in this case. All right, railroads. We could have said Chinese people were the mainly ones that made it. Immigrants in general, but Chinese people were the mainly ones that actually did the railroads. All right, how were they treated? They were treated pretty badly. They were treated as second-hand citizens. All right, but where do we see the majority of the railroads? In the north. Why the north? Because it's somewhat industrialized. That's where they need it more. Then a lot of trading goes in the north. All right, Cottingen. Cottingen, we could say it's a more clean, efficient way of cleaning cotton. I'm sorry, repeat that. More efficient way of cleaning cotton. All right, and where do we see that the most? We see it a lot in the south. A lot in the south. How about factories? Factories. What type of people work there? For sure, women, women, children, immigrants. Women, because that's the main target there that the factories are looking for. Single women that really have no husbands, no any of that matter. Children, because cheap labor, didn't wages were pretty low for them, and immigrants because the majority immigrants actually went to the factories, and that's how we started urbanization. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make sure if you didn't have one of those, make sure you understand that and you continue studying those because that could help you out. Very helpful. All right, 10 seconds, and we should be done in about now. Okay, good. So let's take a look at some of the other technology that made the U.S. the way it is today. So we're gonna look at other technologies today. Okay, the mechanical reaper. All right. First of all, let's look at the picture before we write anything down, because today you will have to write everything on the yellow. Before we write anything down, let's look at this picture. What does it look like it is? If you're thinking about like a tractor, you could be right. The mechanical reaper was that type of thing. Kind of cut the grass as well, but at the same time it enabled for us to actually start doing some farming. All right, you guys probably have seen this before. If you haven't, it's still an essential for us to look at because the mechanical reaper changed the way we did farming. It increased the farm productivity. It was made by Cyrus McCormick. All right, so you guys, that's pretty simple as it is. Pretty productive, helped a lot. All right, so next one. Interchangeable parts. Okay. I did this. I showed the best way. Give me. I'll show you what I mean by this. Let me give you an example of this. Brought some little things to help me out. Okay. This is an old school phone. I don't know if you know it. This is, I believe it's a BlackBerry. All right. So old school phone right here. So this old school phone right here, if it starts to break down, the screen cracks, or we'll say the battery dies, what's the best solution for this now in the age that we live in now? If you're thinking, just quickly replace it, mister. Yeah, that's simple as it is. So if my battery dies or my screen cracks, I could easily replace it. All right, not that great of a phone still. I mean, back when I was in high school, it probably was. But I could easily replace this. That is interchangeable parts. It was created by Eli Whitney. Huh, do you remember what other material did Eli Whitney make? Something in the South. It is the cotton gin. If you got that, you're correct. It is the cotton gin. All right, so let's go back to interchangeable parts, though. So interchangeable parts could easily replace each other, right? So before that, if something broke down, say, I know they didn't have phones back then, let's say something broke down in this phone, I would automatically have to throw the phone away because there was not necessarily any other parts to replace or for me to actually change. It would cost a lot. Might as well just buy a new one. But with interchangeable parts, I know it sounds silly, but with interchangeable parts, now I could easily just, you know what, battery's not working, take out a battery, put in a new one. Boom. It starts working now. All right? That is interchangeable parts. Look at what it says. Allows easy assembly and repair of existing devices. I could easily imagine it. In the next slide, I even told you, think of a battery. Once your battery stops working, you can change it by replacing it with another battery. Interchangeable parts. I know it sounds silly. You might say, Mister, that sounds just pretty easy thinking. Why wouldn't people think of that before? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but the reality is interchangeable parts was a game changer. Eli Whitney made it. He thought of it. Next one we're looking at right here is the Transcontinental Railroad. In the Transcontinental Railroad, there was not necessarily a person that made it, but it was two companies, and you guys have probably seen them before. They are the Union Pacific Railroad and the Central Pacific Railroad. You guys have heard of the Union Pacific probably because if you've ever seen an actual train in Dallas and the main engine is usually a Union Pacific. Let me give you an example, or let me show you. This right here is a Union Pacific. You guys have probably seen this. This is one of the major companies that created the Transcontinental Railroad. All right, major. All right, let's go back to the slides. All right, we have the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific. These two, they decided, hey, I'm going to start from the east and I'm going to start from the west. Let me show. And then once we start making the railroad, we'll meet up in the middle. All right, that's exactly what they did. They met up in the middle. All right, right here you can tell that's where they celebrated. Look, the owners are shaking hands, and that's where they met up. They met up in the middle, okay? So, that right here is the Transcontinental Railroad. We start to see that the railroad connects the east, west, and they're connecting. All right, write that down. I'll give you a little bit of time. Meanwhile, just put pause. I'll go to the next slide. Next one is the steamboat. The steamboat is one of the more essential ones. Now think back to where will we automatically use a steamboat? All right, where? Of course, water. So it has to be water. What have we talked about before that tell about something that's on water that will allow us to use a steamboat? Think about it before. Maybe some canal of some sort. We'll see. All right, so let me go back. You answer that, I'll go back though. All right, the inventor was Robert Fulton. What he created was a steam-powered boat, increasing efficiency of travel and transport of goods. With this, we start to see that we end up having a lot more transportation of goods going through water, and not only that, we start to see a lot more people traveling through water. Okay, now I want you to think of this. I'm gonna go back one slide so I could give you a little train of thought right here. All right, so if I am in New York, so New York, let's see if I could show you right quick. My thing, this is New York right here. Okay, this is New York. Oh man, this is New York. If I am in New York and I decide to travel all the way to California, how would be my best way? What would be the best way to do that? All right, I would automatically use a steamboat. I would use a steamboat to go from New York all the way to the Erie Canal, and in the Erie Canal, I would go all the way around and then just go through the lakes, stop around this area right here, and then start going right here. Maybe walk this distance. It'll take me a couple days probably, and then finally get the train, Transcontinental Railroad, and go all the way till I get to California. Okay? Easiest way. Would it take long? Yes, but it would still be the fastest way to travel. Okay, now Morse code. The Morse code is pretty simple. In the Morse code, we start to see that it was created by Samuel Morse. Right? Morse code and telegraph. This would be the easiest way to communicate. I like to call it the old school phones. All right, old school phones. All right, many telegraph lines followed railroads, resulted in faster communication. So we start to see a lot more communication. Okay, so at this time, we're going to see the video, see what we know about the Morse code. Alright, because of time, I will not show it all, because I only get 15 minutes. So I need you to go to the history of Morse code and listen to it yourself, okay?
Had begun to work on a device that would change communication as we know it.
I'm sorry, just because I'm running out of time here. Okay, but it's a game changer as well, because we start to communicate. It might have taken a while for us to actually get the message, but it would be very essential for us. All right, so if I want to say hey there in Morse code, it would be this: dot 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 dash dot dash dash hyphen dash dot 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 dash dot dot. All right. So today, what we would end up doing is actually writing some stuff down. If we look at the picture, you guys would have to write down the name of the invention right here. Think about it. Now, it's not a railroad. It's more of what we just talked about that connected the east to the west. The inventor, in this case, it wasn't necessarily people, but the reality, it was two companies. Maybe it's Union Pacific and Central Pacific. And give me two negative and two positives, okay? So, with that, we're going to end up, and this would be your DRL. See if you could find. I know you would be able to do number one. Number two, you have to do them in order. We've talked about this. And number three, you would define this. All right. So with that, we are done, guys. See ya in class.